let me tell you what this climate survey is all about. There are two components to this study. The first one is a representative survey of the Hong Kong working population through random telephone interviews to try and understand their attitudes towards LGBT individuals. The second component is an anonymous online survey of LGBT employees who are working or seeking employment in Hong Kong. And encouragingly, we are seeing some signs of greater openness. We do actually see over 50% of Hong Kong people say that they are accepting of LGBT individuals. Transgender individuals are slightly less accepted in Hong Kong. Over 80% say it's not okay to exclude someone from social activities just because they're lesbian or gay or bisexual and transgender. Even though we saw that a lot of people say discriminatory practices are not acceptable, still there's this large number of people in the minority who think that actually it's okay to deny someone of a sales role, of a customer-facing role, because he is gay, or not offering a job to an LGBT individual. Especially in a sales job, there's 35% chance that someone will say, no, I'm not hiring you because you're gay. Again, most LGBT employees are not open in their workplace, but in particular, the level of openness towards their clients and towards their own human resources department is the lowest. 53%, over half of LGBT employees in Hong Kong are exhausted, depressed, and stressed, having to pretend to be someone they are not. And they have wasted energy worrying about what will happen if people find out that they're gay in the workplace. Importantly, 26% say they have had to stay home from work because they have been working in a non-inclusive workplace. So there you go, your employee well-being's out of the window. Your productivity significantly reduces because of a non-inclusive workplace. 22% said they have considered leaving or have left a job because of a non-inclusive environment. Very, very encouragingly, 85% of the Hong Kong people, of the Hong Kong working population, actually say that Hong Kong needs to be more inclusive. Hong Kong needs to engage more on the subject of LGBT. 80% Hong Kong people say that companies need to be proactive. You need to take steps to ensure that LGBT employees are treated fairly in the workplace. We found that post-80s, young people, Gen Y, people who are born after the 1980s, they are generally more accepting of LGBT individuals. They're more willing to work alongside openly LGBT colleagues, and they're least tolerant of discriminatory practices. So for companies who want to attract the best young talent, this is something you need to do. An inclusive workplace will get you the best talent. There's no more time to wait. The time to act is really now. So we need to start taking steps to create this inclusive environment now. Both companies and each and every one of us take on that responsibility to help create this positive change in Hong Kong.
There are a lot of multinational companies in Hong Kong. Many of them are not aware that they are supposed to accord equal rights to same-sex partners. I won't bother naming them, except that it required going all the way back to their head offices in Connecticut or New York to force the issue, because they said, it doesn't apply in Hong Kong because you're a local hire. It doesn't apply in Singapore. It doesn't apply anywhere else.
Since 2010, we've been running an LGBT campaign. So throughout that campaign, we've reached out to a number of different companies in Hong Kong through workshops, through talking with them directly, through running forums, interactive discussions. So we've reached out to a good number of companies to get them to try and understand the business case and maybe start creating that dialogue within their organizations. What we've seen is that people are starting to pay more attention to this issue, definitely. The challenge of multinational companies needing to go back to their headquarters may be one of the obstacles, but we hope that this climate study will actually be a ammunition that they can use to show their headquarters actually that you need to do something in Hong Kong and maybe the rest of Asia. We're slowly changing the world. It's not going to happen in the snap, but we're definitely working on that, and we will continue our campaign and our advocacy work, working with companies directly as well.
I'm Coleman McGrath from HKU. I was just, given that Hong Kong is a multiracial, multi-ethnic, multicultural city, clearly those confounders in the message that you're giving must be considered, because it may be that it's not merely an issue for the population on the whole, but rather an issue for certain ethnic, racial or cultural groups.
I can say that for the LGBT employee survey, we have a pretty good representation from people from different ethnic backgrounds, and also people working in different types of organizations, be it multinational companies or local or Chinese companies. We did hear from a pretty diverse group of people, so I'm quite comfortable in saying that this is quite representative of Hong Kong as a society in terms of its internationalism. For the working population survey, we actually have a predominant percentage from the local Chinese population who answered the telephone survey. So it's very representative of what Hong Kong is, because Hong Kong is less than 5% of expatriate population, so predominantly a Chinese society. So that sort of is a reflection of where Hong Kong is and what Hong Kong's people's attitudes are towards this issue.
I'm Mak Hua from the City University of Hong Kong. Do you ask anything that they want the government to do? Because as I understand that there's not been sex orientation discrimination legislation in Hong Kong. Therefore, it has been a hurdle in the past for the inclusion of LGBTs in our communities.
As an organization, because we definitely is in support of equality for all individuals, whether in the workplace and in the community, and obviously we want to see Hong Kong government legislating on anti-discrimination against on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. And hopefully, having done this survey, the government could revisit their stance on this, because their general attitude survey that the government has conducted was done 6 years ago, so it's quite a while ago now. So hopefully they will pick this up and start thinking that maybe the attitudes are starting to change in Hong Kong and something needs to be done.